Welcoming fans to the Utah Lacrosse Report podcast. I'm Tim Haslam. My guest today is Connor Hollison. In this episode, Holli and I talk about his time at Park City and IMG, favorite memories from playing at the University of Utah, the mentality of a goalie, starting a lacrosse business, and training goalies all over the world. Holli started Adaptive Goaltending shortly after graduating from Utah, is hosting 2 clinics in Utah, and even wrote a book based on goalie mentality. Hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the show, Connor. How are you?
Thank you. I almost said Coach Haslam. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me on.
I've been called worse, Holli. It's okay. First question I ask every guest, when did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, I started playing lacrosse in Florida, actually, in 6th grade, right before I moved to Utah, but not very seriously. Just one of the teachers at the middle school introduced it to the school. So I gave it a shot, and nobody wanted to play goalie except me. So I've always been a goalie since that point. And I started actually playing like on a team rec league in Utah in 7th grade.
Okay. So you moved to Utah, joined a rec team, you play here and then eventually end up playing at IMG back in Florida.
Yeah.
What went into that decision? And then just for people who aren't aware of IMG, how does it work there?
Yeah. So played rec ball in Utah. Then I totally fell in love with sport. A little bit of background about that. I was a baseball player most of my life. In Florida, baseball is a little bit more serious. And then when I got to Utah, baseball was not very serious. And I moved to Park City where lacrosse is very serious. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go with lacrosse. So anyways, going into IMG, I had a coach at a tournament see me play. I don't know. I think I was in California. I don't remember which tournament, but at IMG, asked me if I was interested in coming, and we learned more about it. I was trying to go to a boarding school either way, but that was my introduction to IMG. And then my family and I made the decision to go there for just my junior and senior year. So before that, I played at Park City High School, freshman, sophomore year, and then I ended up going to IMG. Yeah, so IMG, it's a boarding school, and that itself is its own theme of just totally different world from playing for a public or private school. You're away from home. You spend a ton of time with your teammates. It's kind of like college in that way. You really get to know your teammates very well because you're with them all the time. And of course, your classmates in other sports as well. I guess the biggest difference with IMG is that it's entirely focused on sports, which is different than most of the other like lacrosse heavy boarding schools. And also the caliber of athlete there is pretty insane. You'd be walking around and see like some 7'5" guy on the basketball team in high school. So that was definitely really eye-opening. The other cool thing about IMG is there's a lot of international students there from different countries. On a little bit less so with lacrosse, there were some Canadians and Australians, but yeah, the other sports would be people from all over Europe, even Africa, South America. So that was pretty cool. It's a big difference. It's a lot of responsibility to take on, so that could be great and that could be bad depending on which kid it is. So it's gonna, if you're making that decision for your child to go to boarding school or not, you have to factor that into play. They have to be almost like adults, not quite adults, but almost like adults, in that they need to go get their own food, not necessarily make it, but go get it at least. They have to go to class without anyone telling them to go to class. They have to go to practice without anyone telling them to go to practice. They got to do all of that on their own, right? So if you're 15 or 16, or some of the kids on the team are like 12, 13, 14, that could be difficult, right? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, it's a unique atmosphere.
Mhm.
Probably more like college than a typical high school.
Yeah, that was the part I felt it prepared me for the most. Was it really like I got to college, I was like I felt good to go as far as handling my own schedule and being ready for what to expect.
Yeah, and I know there were some teammates at Utah who were like at Culver, similar sentiment, right?
Yeah.
Like it prepares you well for college, and college can even be easier sometimes,
Mhm.
right? Depending on what's going on and stuff. You
Mhm.
played IMG. You at some point you decide, hey, I want to play in college. What
Yep.
was the recruiting process? How did that look for you?
Yeah, I had a ton of interest at the Division 3 level, at the higher Division 3 level, so NESCAC schools, and Salisbury was another one. And I had my mind hard set on playing Division 1 lacrosse no matter what. I'm not sure why, but that's just what I was thinking. Like I'm playing Division 1 lacrosse no matter what. I had a brief opportunity with Air Force, and that didn't work out for a few reasons. I didn't really want to go into the military anyway, so that was probably the best decision for me. I had interest from Mount St. Mary's. And then with Utah, I'm from Utah. I didn't really get recruited by Utah. I sent Brian Holman an email saying, "Hey, can I come play for Utah?" And he was like, "Sure, Holli, you can come try. You can come try out, and we'll see what happens." And so I went. I walked on the team basically, and I remember that class. I don't. You might remember how many kids it was. I think it was like 25 kids. It was crazy. And I'm not sure how many of those kids didn't end up keep playing for the team, but it was more than half. And yeah, they never kicked me off, I think, because I just wouldn't leave. So
That's a great way to stay on a team for sure, is just not
yes, sir.
leave.
Yeah,
Talk about your time at Utah.
yeah.
Favorite memories, favorite experiences, stuff you learned, stuff like that.
Oh man, so I don't even know where to start with that. It was an amazing experience. Um, I I really liked that I got to see two very different coaching staffs. The Holman coaching staff a little bit stricter, more but a little bit more hoorah, and then the McMinn coaching staff a little bit more technical, a little bit more yeah, technical is the right word. And a little not more laid back, but a little bit more focused on like do this specific thing over the anyways, just interesting to see. I spent about halftime with each coaching staff. And then every year in the fall, I really liked going on. We went on a trip to Heber, night cabin. Do they still do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So every year in the fall, we'd go on this trip to a cabin and we would spend 3 or 4 days there and just bond as a team. We'd play games, but the one rule was that you couldn't have a phone the whole time. So everybody put their phones in a bin. So you had to interact with everybody, and it was really special. I really love that. And then aside from that, just the bus trips, being with the boys, having meals together, getting to know everybody. And of course, some of the big wins were really fun. Those are probably my favorite memories overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about a couple things. First is you mentioned the two coaching staffs.
Yep.
Both Coach Holman and Coach McMinn were
Mhm.
goalies.
Yeah, true. Yeah, yeah.
So what did you learn from each of those guys?
Yeah, Holman's mentality is unlike any other human I've ever met, and in a good way. He's just if he wants to get something done, he's going to do everything in his power to get it done. And I think that's a great skill for goalies, because sometimes you're put in a position where you're not going to be able to be in the right spot to make a save, but you're still expected to save it because your job is, at the end of the day, I'd argue it's the most important job on the field because if you don't do your job, the ball goes in the goal and you lose, right? So his mentality is something I think me and all the other kids in my class carried with us until we graduated. And I think that helped foster an outstanding culture. McMinn opened my eyes up to so many different things, goalie wise, technique wise, from positioning to angle play. And one of the things was he taught me how to move with shots on the run in a very specific way where I was taking much smaller steps so I wouldn't lose my position because he was a smaller goalie too. So his play style really translated well to my game. So yeah, those would be the two biggest things for me.
Awesome. And then talk about the mentality of a goalie, right?
Yeah.
The goalie position is the least subbed out position. Some schools will
Oh
run
yeah.
a goalie for 4 years and
Mhm.
never miss a beat. And so talk about, game day preparation, talk about practice preparation, but specifically, there's kids out there who are a backup goalie. Maybe they're a junior and they're
Mhm.
behind a senior. What mentality should they have knowing that, hey, they may not see game time, but also being ready in case they do?
This is a great coincidence because I was just working on creating a blog and a post about something adjacent to this, so I have some data here. Every year, about 60 goalies in the country are recruited to play Division One lacrosse, more or less. About half of them become starters, and about 10 of them become multi-year starters. To give anybody who's listening to this context about how difficult this is to play at the next level and how small your chances are, like it's pretty crazy. So if that's what you're wanting to get into, I think that's good information to know that you have to absolutely love this and do it like all day, not just like when you feel like it, right? Um, yeah, so as far as the mentality of that goes though, it's the data says it. You're probably not going to play until you're a junior or senior in high school and college, and that's just the reality, unless you're exceptional. And you might be exceptional, and that's great, but the average goalie is not playing until they're junior or senior at any level, right? So just understanding that, expecting it, going into it, and when you're not playing, use it as an opportunity to learn encourage your teammates, because if you don't do that, you will definitely regret it later. If you carry it like in a negative way, it's going to affect you.
And at Utah, when you were there, several
Mhm.
goalies, they were always the loudest at the end of the bench, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We made
Some,
noise.
something you guys took pride in, for sure.
Yes, sir.
Um, you graduate from college,
Hmm.
played at the University of Utah, and then you decide to start your own business,
Yeah.
Adaptive Goaltending.
Yes, sir.
Tell us why you started it and why goaltending training.
Okay. There's a lot of reasons. There's a massive gap in the market right now at least from what I could see, of useful information for lacrosse goalies that is easily accessible on the internet. And there's basically two options right now. There's very expensive private training, and there's also pretty expensive camp level training. So there's like either I train with 300 goalies or I do a $500 an hour session one-on-one with a pro, like whatever, something like that, right? There's not a lot going on in the middle. And like I was saying before, there's not a lot of information on the internet. So my initial goal of adaptive goaltending was to get more, just purely more good and real and accurate information on lacrosse goalie on the internet. Because there is information on the internet, but a lot of it's either really outdated or just straight up wrong, like stuff that nobody would tell you to do at the highest levels. So that was goal number one. I don't think I've quite accomplished that yet, but I'm getting to the point where I'm feeling pretty good about that. I've got 500 posts up on Instagram, blog posts coming out every week, and yeah, just getting all that info out there that I can, talking to the best goalies in the world and doing what I can to get the word out. And unlike something like soccer or hockey, there's not really a set rule book yet for how to play the position. Like in hockey, great example of this is there's like a stand-up goalie and a butterfly goalie. In lacrosse, we don't even have that. It's just so usually goalies get taught by a parent and they just do their best to keep the ball out of the goal. Um, that's a problem in lacrosse in general, I think, but I think it's really a problem in with goalie, especially in states like Utah and the West, Mountain West, and the central part of the country where there's just not as much access to that. So that was the original goal. Then I got the idea, like, can I train goalies on the internet? Do I have to be in the state that they're in? And no, not really. I figured out I could set up a Google Meet, just like, well, this is a Zoom, but a video call. They could have their earbuds on, and as long as they brought a shooter, I could coach them at the same level I could if I was there in person. So that was kind of like phase two of developing this. And now we're trying to move all of that to in person as well. So um, obviously mostly starting in Utah, but hoping to expand out and kind of run goalie training out west, if you will.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so two questions on that.
Yeah.
You were doing these trainings, or you're doing trainings virtually,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you're also got some clinics, and we'll get to those.
Yeah.
What's been some of the feedback? What's been some of the things that you're seeing, maybe like on a general level with goalies, that you're like, oh, the last five kids were doing this wrong. What's something
Oh
that
man.
someone
Yeah.
could fix, by listening to this podcast, so to speak.
My current theory slash take slash opinion is that the most important skill to learn, bar like physical skill, ignoring the mental side of the game, is positioning, like just literally being in the right part of the goal. It's something that basically every single youth goalie I work with isn't good at. Even the best ones. Even the best kids I work with, they're still not quite 100% there with positioning, especially with shots on the run, especially with crease finishes. So positioning is a major skill. Number two on that list would be clearing, but not just clearing IQ. I was definitely a major victim of this until like probably the end of my college career. I couldn't figure this out. And it's honestly, it's partially my fault for not paying attention to my coaches, but I don't think there was a lot of good information about it out there. So clearing IQ and positioning, those would be the two biggest ones I have to constantly fix with kids I
Sure.
work with. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you do have two clinics coming up in the state of
Yes, sir.
Utah.
Hmm.
You've got one in Salt Lake City that'll be at Judge High School on March 21st, and
Yes,
then
sir.
one in St. George, March 27th.
Yep.
A kid signs up. What can they expect coming to one of these clinics?
Yep. So the Salt Lake one, I'm super excited for. I'm going to be running that with Connor O'Neill, who's my former goalie teammate. So both going to be there. It's going to be a blast. We're bringing some of our former shooting teammates as well. So you got Division One shooters and Division One goalies on staff. making sure that you're getting the best experience possible. We're gonna cover everything. We're gonna cover fundamentals, positioning, clearing, and do a lot of live shooting reps with that just because we'll have multiple cages, we'll have multiple shooters, and Connor and myself, Connor as well, will be floating around and make sure everybody's getting legitimate individualized trading as opposed to just getting thrown in the cage and getting rocks thrown at them.
You wouldn't believe the amount of times that I struggled with the Connor and Connor because you guys spell it differently as well.
Yeah.
So I quadruple checked every plane ticket I bought for you
Yeah,
guys
I'm
to
sure.
make sure it was right on those.
Yeah.
And Holli, where can people find out more about your trainings, about the clinics, all that?
I'm most active on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok and YouTube under the same handle, but Adaptive Goaltending, all lowercases, no spaces, no characters. Then my website's just adaptivegoaltending.com. Yep.
And we'll link to both of those in the show notes. You're just under 10,000 followers on
Yeah.
Instagram, so
100 more.
we need 100 more to get them up to that special 10K number.
Yes, sir.
And that'll be good. Holli, thanks for joining the podcast today. Again, go check out those links in the show notes. Go to attend one of these clinics, get trained by Connor virtually. He doesn't even need to be there. It's wild.
Don't even need to be in Utah. Yep.
Anything else you'd like to say to the fans of the Utah Lacrosse Report?
Yeah, one quick plug. I wrote a book 3 months ago called The Fearless Lacrosse Goalie. If you're interested in the mental side of the game, it's outstanding. I interviewed 8 goalies, all at the Division I or national team level. I asked them the same 10 questions and wrote the chapters about that, getting their thoughts on what works best for them, what doesn't work for them, and how you can dominate the crease in between your ears and not just physically. So yeah, check that out.
Awesome. I love it. We'll link to that in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
Holli, I want to thank you for coming on, and best of luck moving forward, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Thanks for having me on.